it seems so natural for us to wanting to go where we live, but what about going where you grew up or where you're familiar with? Like this seems to be one that um, doesn't cross a lot of people's mind. They're like, oh, my childhood home, I don't want to deal with that. But why not? Like if you grew up there, you have some cool stories you can weave into all your marketing. It's like, man, this is the park. I remember getting splinters here from, the old play school or play equipment. Now I just aged myself, right? Like you could have so much fun with it, where I would think it would definitely make for a really, really good option for your geographic farm. Hello, everybody. All right. I am super excited for today's Monday Momentum, in which we're talking about the 3 options for your geographic farm. And this one came about from a conversation I had with another agent. So if you've been wondering, well, where should I farm? I have a couple thoughts for you on this one. And as always, make sure that if you want the cheat sheet, I got it right here. You can simply comment options below, and I'm going to make sure we'll get that to you after the live. So options for your cheat sheet, and then let's dive in. Before I do though, what do you think? I want to know in the comments, what do you think are some of the options for your geographic farm? Drop it in the comments and say hello, because it's Monday. I'm in my workout clothes actually today because I got to get a listing ready and don't have clients to see. So yes, awesome. All right, let's get going here. 3 options for your geo farm, and which one is right for you? That is the big one, right? There are so many options, but not all of them are necessarily right. So I thought, why not take a minute and talk to you about that one? So let's start with the easy one. Your neighborhood, right? The area that you personally live in. Yes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of it. Because obviously, if it's the area that you are familiar with, you probably know quite a lot about it, right? You're also able to get a little bit more resourceful. Now, when I moved into my neighborhood, I had to use a GPS for the first 3 months to get to the grocery store because I would get lost. I didn't realize that streets here are like a grid system where you can really go left, right, and you get there, right? Took me quite some time. It's a European thing. Our roads go crazy because we go around mountains. Anyhow, we have, in your neighborhood, you definitely have some advantage for wanting to know more. So if you are familiar with your neighborhood, that makes it easy. But if you're not familiar with your neighborhood, like I was, at least you're willing to learn. I will tell you a story of me and my back then toddler wanting to explore different parks. Okay. I didn't grow up in the area, so knowing where the parks were located was, well, not something that was easy for me. So I went ahead and I printed out a map of our area. And what I did was I put little dots on all the different parks on the map. This way, I wasn't going to get lost with my 2-year-old riding the bike to find a different park. And I just had that little map with me in front of my bicycle seat. So this way I was able to, see where I was going, what streets to take. True story, swear to God. And that's what I mean when people are saying you're willing to learn. If it's a neighborhood that you just moved into, you're willing to learn. If it's important to your life, you will get resourceful, right? Now, I could have taken the car and I could have probably driven around aimlessly, but I went about it by printing a map and getting my kid on a bicycle, and then we would go and find those parks. Now, what came about later on was an entire series that I dubbed Park Week. And in that one, I took my neighbors on a tour of 50 plus parks throughout our neighborhood that included green spaces, baseball fields, parks, splash pads, all of the above. And now it's available as a lead magnet, okay? So yes, that one is definitely one of my favorite ones. If it's something you can do, the area you live in is definitely a good one. Now, here's a drawback. And I want to talk about the drawback because I know some of you guys feel like this. If you are farming the area that you live in, you always feel like you're being watched. You always feel like people are going to watch you. Are you actually just going to hang out on a Sunday? Like, why are you not out there working, right? Is your house like, is the grass mowed? Is, your house put together? You feel most often a little visible. And coming to terms with that visibility is something that you have to decide if it's right for you. I've had a couple people in here say, oh my gosh, I hate being so visible. I don't like when my neighbors watch me. And I've had people that say, you know what, I love to get to know my neighbors because they know I live right there and their home value is important to me. So again, I get both sides of the argument. In my opinion, I'd rather be the one pushing the prices as high as possible for my own home's sake than, letting it up to somebody like another agent that's just after the commission payment. So that are my 2 cents on that one. So that's number one, the area you live in. And that's how I started out. Again, I didn't grow up in the area, so I had to get comfortable with getting to know all the things about my area. And I just told you the story about the park. Now, for example, the models, the name of the models is another one. So I wasn't familiar with them. So I got resourceful and I started learning about the models inside my pretty cookie cutter neighborhood. So just a little bit of something to consider. Now, number 2, if you are not wanting to farm the area that you live in, what else can you do? Well, you could, for example, look for the area that your office is in. That's right. The area that your office is in might be perfect because you can just say, hey, my office is located down the street, and you get some credibility. So if you are, unsure, maybe check around your office. Are there developments around your office that would make sense farming? People will oftentimes like a brick and mortar location that is close by because they know those people then know the area, they know the value it holds, they know what's around it, right? Now you can argue on the agent side of like, oh, I never go to my office. It's like, yes, I hear that a lot. But if you have a brick and mortar office and you can use the brick and mortar for credibility right off the bat, why not? And then it also comes in handy if it's walking distance. You can simply invite them, hey, come on over, right? We're going to do like Saturday mornings, donuts and deals, or I don't know, name it whatever you want. But if they start seeing you consistently, they might actually start building that relationship with you on a trust basis. Now, having, something real estate themed is always hard, but I'm sure you can think of something like, story time at your office every 3rd Saturday. Okay, you have some cool options that you can do. Oh, talking about options, make sure you drop options below and I'll get you your free cheat sheet. So yes, Tracy, thanks for the reminder. I'll make sure I'll get that one over to you right after this live. And making sure you don't have to take all those notes, right? So the area your office is in, again, having that security, people love having a brick and mortar office that they can walk into because remember, we're not here to sell somebody a $20 pair of shoes, right? We are here to help them with one of the biggest transactions of their life. Now, I know a lot of you guys are virtual, okay? So I'm not judging you here, but if you have an office, maybe you can use it. So now let's see, what else did I get? Oh, that's right. The drawback, obviously, if you don't have an office. It happens, okay? If you don't have an office space, don't worry about it. I got another option coming up. So we have 3 options. If brick and mortar is not one of them for you, you have 2 other ones. The area you live in, or option number 3, the area you grew up in or are familiar with. I know. So that one was an interesting one because it seems so natural for us to wanting to go where we live. But what about going where you grew up or where you're familiar with? Like this seems to be one that doesn't cross a lot of people's mind. They're like, oh, my childhood home, I don't want to deal with that. But why not? Like if you grew up there, you have some cool stories you can weave into all your marketing. It's like, man, this is the park. I remember getting splinters here from, the old play school or play equipment. Now I just aged myself, right? Like you could have so much fun with it, where I would think it would definitely make for a really, really good option for your geographic farm. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pros. If you have moved, but you are still close to that area, like that is a great option for you to consider as a farm, right? You can share the back when things, and that insider knowledge that I don't think most of you guys give yourself credibility for is something that people will appreciate if you're sharing it from your perspective. Man, I grew up here and we had about 10 bikes lying right here on the lawn. This was Miss Peterson's house. And by the way, it's on the market. So why don't we go in and check out Miss Peterson's house from back when? Like you have so much cool stuff that you can do, that you can talk about. And I don't know, I like bringing people back through time in so many words, right? But anyhow, one of the drawbacks is probably, will people call you out for not living in that neighborhood? And I've just recently had that conversation with another agent. She was asked, do you live here in her geographic farm? And she said, no, I did not, or I do not. Now, most often you do not have to live in an area to actually really care. So when that question comes up, do you live in the area? Simply say, be honest about it, right? Like, no, but I grew up right down the street from here and I have the fondest memories, and I'm really hoping to connect with some of the original owners, bring in some of the new buyers, and really make sure that I am involved in the community that made my upbringing so, so amazing, right? So you have options in a response where you don't have to worry about sounding like a sales pitch, okay? As long as you're involved in the community, they will not care where you live. You just need to be present and really care. And we just had this conversation today inside the office where I said, it really is not hard if you just ask yourself this really, really important one question. How would you like to be treated? Like this question seems to be lost on so many levels. How would you like to be treated, right? And as long as you are doing all these things inside the community, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if it's an area you grew up in, if it's an area that you now live in. It doesn't matter if your office is in that area, right? As long as you have your heart in the right place, you'll be just fine. So I hope this was helpful. Remember, grab the cheat sheet by simply commenting options below. And thanks again for joining me on another episode of the Monday Momentum. This one was fun. I can't wait to do some more of them every Monday inside the Facebook group at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I hope you got something out of it. So if you've been lost on where do I farm, check this one out, and all the answers are right in this video. All right. Have a good one, guys.